Welcome to Contact Centre's Uncensored. I'm Simon Blair.
And I'm Shelley Flett.
Hi, Shelley.
What are we talking about today?
Empathy. Empathy. It's all about empathy and
Not sympathy.
not sympathy. Big difference, and often confused, especially with complaint handling in the contact centre environment. But empathy is, to me, number one attribute in terms of personal effectiveness.
And that is
Full
to have a genuine care in the outcome or the person that you're speaking with.
Yeah, and I like to, in its simplest form, it's the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and see their perspective. And it's about, therefore you can validate it and respect it, but you don't have to agree with it. And I think that's a key distinction.
And because the challenge that I've seen with calls that lead to complaints or conversations that lead to arguments is where there needs to be agreement. So
yes, it's a battle.
I need to change your mind because you're wrong.
Yes.
And I'm right.
Yeah. So the key to complaint management, I use a twofold technique in its simplest form in terms of your initial response is, and there's a whole thing around you need to let the customer vent and, because they just got to get that emotion out. It's all emotion.
Yeah.
You've got to deal with the emotion. And to deal with the emotion, you need to understand what the emotion is that you're hearing, if it's over the phone, or seeing, if it's in person, and to validate their right to feel that way. And so there's something you have to say to express that empathy and show that validation. And that's the key to disarming the situation and taking the emotion from there, just moderating it, and then you can take ownership and get into the nuts and bolts of what's caused it. So an example would be, so Shelley, I can tell you're a bit tense, you're a bit awkward, a bit potentially at the moment sitting next to me. The fact that I'm recognising that through my language, if that was actually the case, of course you're not, you're completely comfortable in my presence, aren't you, Shelley? Shelley, I'm getting a sense that there's possibly a bit concerned by this situation right now.
So how do you do that? Because I often say don't put emotion or like emotive words in other people's heads. So I can say you're looking a bit.
You've got to be careful. Yeah, absolutely. So you've got to not make assumptions.
I know you're angry right now.
Yeah, well, that's an extreme.
That happens though, doesn't it?
Yeah. So if a customer is yelling at you with absolute anger, then that's good, because you need strength of emotion, you need strength of language.
So you would say, I know you're angry.
Yeah, and you can even increase the intensity of your own delivery to match the intensity of what you're hearing. And there's a trick there that happens in terms of that actually makes people feel comfortable and validated in its own right.
I have never had someone say, I know you're angry, without me then flipping my lid.
Yeah, because maybe
I wasn't angry.
Well, maybe that's why. I'm not angry. I am.
Well, I wasn't until you said I was, and now I am.
So it's, if there's cues there that reveal what the emotion is, then, or if the customer actually says it, you got to listen to their own language. It's reflective language, but there's a safe sort of space that covers most situations. Frustration, concern. So you can cover most bases with that.
Okay.
Look, you're clearly frustrated by what's happened.
Or concerned.
I can hear that in your voice and what you've just told me. Totally get that. And that's step one. That's the validating the emotion. That's the empathy statement. Yeah. And then you can take ownership. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you some questions. Let's find out what's driven this situation. Yes. And then together we'll try to get this resolved. How does that sound?
And it's not about you did it wrong, I did it right.
No judgment.
No judgment, no competitive behaviour.
And I think that's the key with empathy. For leaders, especially with having difficult conversations with staff and each other, it's being able to have respectful agreements and seeing the truth of someone else's perspective without judgment, because we all like to judge, and we bring so much judgment because we're thinking of ourselves and our own situations, which might not have any bearing at all to do with why that person is feeling the way they are, what's driving their view, their perspective. Yeah. So it's about, again, good conversations, but if you can't empathise with the emotions, you'll struggle to have that sort of conversation.
So validate, own.
Yep. And then
empathise.
Yep.
Not be competitive.
Yep. Absolutely.
Great. Go forth.
Thanks, Shelley.